bring you an astrological forecast for October 2nd to October 8th, but we're going to do a recap of this full moon in Aries and hopefully do a 12-sign horoscope rundown to bring it up to you guys to kind of really talk about what we're going into, because we're doing a pre-eclipse walkthrough, basically. Not only are we here starting a new show here with yours truly, Ricardo, 15-year astrologer, we are also going to be talking about what's also happened, not just for this full moon in Aries, but we're going to be doing a weekly horoscope from here every Monday, basically, especially because we are dropping into eclipse season. And with this, it's some of the biggest transformations that we can experience on a day-to-day basis. And not only just that, it's also what we're going to be able to talk about for all 12 signs of the zodiac. And it's something that's long awaited to be shared. And we're just going to have a great talk. So I appreciate anyone that's dropping in here so we can actually drop into many different topics and theories and kind of have a more base conversation on what things are really looking like. So, without further ado, if we went back to September 29th, you would see that we had a full moon in Aries at 6 degrees. And this is an awesome paramount because the North Node is here in Aries. It's ruled by the planet Mars. It's here basically giving us a kickstart through this autumn equinox period where full moon in Aries really gets us to awaken and gives us a turbo boost into what's showing up and where we're going in our lives. Most important thing that you need to remember, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It initiates spring, awakening you from winter and showing you that it rules your face and your blood. Who are you? What are you about? What is your identity? And this can be very triggering for people because we have an asteroid called Chiron sitting in the sign of Aries. And guess what? Here I'm going to start out with this. No one's going to save you. It's up to us to own who we are and what we identify in this world to get life going. And it's a lot of things that can paralyze us from this energy if not understanding. But to engage with it, Aries is the life force that awakens us to enjoy the life we have, identify with it, with what we want, and go at it like a bullseye. And to be honest, if it's much like this camera or however you're enjoying things in life, acceptance. This full moon was about acceptance. Where are you? You know, what car do you drive? What's your name? Where you're at? Basic stuff. Because Aries is the first sign. It's, you know, they're very intelligent people, but the energy is pretty ooga booga. What do you like? What do you want to do? What shows up for you? And basically engage, show up. So with that common sense there, we are moving on from this full moon because it's already happened. And as I speak to you being October 3rd, we're already here on pretty much Tuesday if you're watching this live. And I want to chat that we'll talk about Monday to Sunday to break down the week so you guys not only have a function of understanding what you can experience in the week, but also pertain it to your life in a way that my daily horoscopes will make much more practical sense. And when we can break it down to each one of the 12 zodiac signs, I prefer you to look at this video more for your rising sign, more preferably, but it can apply to you in many different ways if it's your sun sign or your rising sign. For those that are their own skepticism in astrology, there will be some videos up to pertain to you in my YouTube. But initiating this new weekly horoscope, without further ado, let's chime in. So, like I said, full moon in Aries, it was a pre-eclipse in a way, because this full moon was a release point. There are also 5 planets retrograde. We have Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter. All the outer planets and all the inner planets still are kind of going through shadow period except for Mars. So we're still in a stagnated period of time. Even though things are changing and moving forward in your life, there's also periods where you might feel like things are in the same theme, that you want to have a big change happen. And we are putting the last bit of pieces, dots together, that's going to arise with some really karmic transformations, hopefully, within these next couple months, and especially have shined things to your focus due to the Venus retrograde that happened late July. So some people's mental capacity might be overspended with some of the astrology jargon. I will always say interpretation to break things down for you so you don't need to get lost in the sauce. But let's talk about today that the moon was in Taurus. And yesterday, on Monday, the moon being in Taurus went over Jupiter and Uranus. And these are really changeable times in our relationships that if you're really stuck in a certain place, that Uranian energy wants things to break out, wants a transformation. But when the moon's in Taurus, a Venus ruled sign, and the sun's in Libra, a Venus ruled sign, it's a much more chiller tone. It's a calmer tone. It's eat chocolate, watching movies, and with your partner kind of vibes to some extent, or just having a much more gracious day and going through the motions, but not starting and activating things, which is going to lead me to some powerful transits in the background. Today, if you're watching this, you're going to be watching this horoscope prepping you for what's happening in Tuesday, that at this transmission for October 3rd, the moon has entered Gemini. And so now we have the moon entering an air sign with the sun in an air sign, and with not just Mars on the south node. This is some big things. First, with the moon in Gemini, this is going to make us a lot more intellectually stimulated and wanting us to engage more emotionally, especially with asking questions, and especially just being curious about the relationships and people in our lives. When you have double air like this, we want to know, we want to ask questions, we want to seek to understand. But when we have Mars, a sign that represents your identifying ego, it's the dispositor, the North Node Aries, where we should be leading is with Mars, but it's on the South Node, a karmic point in Libra, where it is detriment. Are you taking action due to the influence of your relationships? Or are you running away from not identifying Aries and using the Libra approach to sit there and try to weigh out things instead of just taking the action that you know you need to do? Healthy medicine here is these are karmic points where we can vindicate, justify, go to court over, make excuses, if you will, for the Mars that our relationships or the way we go about relationships or the egoic way that we're used to engaging and taking action due to our relationships is coming at a karmic cleansing point at this moment. And if you're trying to get into fights or you're trying to get engaged with things and trying to save the day for some other purpose that really has nothing to do with you, you're not on the right path here. Or you're soon to understand some karmic cleanup points, because we don't need to mess up the beautiful things that are in our lives right now. Jupiter and Uranus, to dive one level deeper, these two planets are sitting in the sign of Taurus, and you'll soon understand throughout these horoscope videos that these are trying to root our lives and commit to things and basically keep watering the garden to let the greatest life that we want back into our lives. So when Mars is on the South Node, you usually see people way more aggressive, way more engaged, want to start fights, do things off the cuff that basically you don't need to get engaged. You don't need to jump the gun. This is actually more about taking a more peaceful approach. And you can say things in an unemotional manner of calling a bluff or seeing what the truth is. Just getting data, facts, but knowing how to proceed and moving forward. So this could be a very stimulating, fun, engaging, fiery, and air day, but I definitely can see that there's going to be a lot of karmic questions that come up that might trigger our egos, or just definitely speaking to not let our egos go out of whack this Tuesday, October 3rd. Next day, October 4th, Wednesday, that moon is going to be in Gemini, making a nice trine with the sun, so it would be even more engaging potentially on Wednesday from what I shared of the other day. So it's definitely going to start percolating a lot of that kind of stimulating socialite energy, even just being a little bit more talkative with your community group. I would definitely seek to get out, because you could feel more lonely or more disengaged because that air energy wants to fly, if you will. Venus will also be in Leo doing something very rare. It is doing something called a yod. I don't expect anyone here to understand what this is, but basically it's doing a triangle with Neptune at 25 and Pluto at 27. It's a very beautiful spiritual, illuminating keyhole to what's going on in your life. And if you can let go of the burdens of what this Mars is trying to tell us in the way that we go about our relationships, we need to cut loose and set ourselves free in a way that we've let others indicate how we need to be behaving potentially. And we're not going to win that fight no matter how much we push, no matter how much we want to please, or how much we may even want to repress. Because Mars in Libra, though, is detriment. It's really trying to be a peacemaker. It's trying to be a good diplomat, but it's also a good fencer. We don't need to engage in things that aren't for our best interest. And this can really come up with the South Node as being a very illusionary, ego-stroking period in time. And we need to understand and have balance within that. Moving on to Thursday, October 5th. This is where the moon is going to reach a peak in Gemini and is going to be extra trining that Mars. So you can imagine this week is going to be a very engaging, stimulating week with a lot of action and probably a lot of ongoing, at least a lot of phone calls and communication, potential emails. With that being said, I would say the pinnacle is Thursday by mid-afternoon. No, late in the night, morning. That will be trining Mars. You might not get too much sleep on the end of Wednesday. There could be an early Thursday morning get up for some people. But if we're really going into it, I would like to say that Thursday, by the main part of the day, that moon is going to be entering Cancer. And this is starting our halfway point. By the way, this would lead us to being about 1 week away from a solar eclipse in the sign of Libra at 21 degrees, which is going to be a full-length video and a full-length talk. And when you have a total solar eclipse, these are not days or periods in time to take lightly. It sits in the sign of relationships. This is a deep transforming time on how we go about relationships, how we're engaging with them, and who we're identifying with, and who are we that is being projected into that lens. If you caught that, great. But what's going to happen for this Thursday is the moon's going to get pretty emotional in Cancer. And we're going to want to engage with areas of life that might not be justifiable, or we want to justify things and be a peacemaker, but we do have some radical emotions to release. There's something about wanting to keep a peace, but needing to be real in the ways that we authentically feel. And there's a really great time to have robust conversations because Mercury will be entering Libra and leaving its home place of Virgo. So before Thursday, get things together. Get contracts signed. Get little details that you know that you need to take care of on the line, stat. But by Thursday, things chill out and do move into a much more relationship-based theme for quite some months. If we move over to the next day for Friday, you can experience that moon is going to be hanging out in Cancer, and that is going to be our direct quarter square 90-degree moon. Again, I see this being a little bit more emotional, a little bit more on edge. Venus is also leaving shadow period. Whew. Big deal. Quick rundown is that Venus went retrograde late July in the sign of Leo. And when it comes to the end, it went to 28, it does a retrograde, and then it comes back to the place. It is almost coming to a spiritual receiving mode that is about to finish a big story in your life. Friday would ring the bells to pay attention to what is going on in your life, especially when it is about your internal happiness. You. What makes you happy? What makes you feel joy? What makes you permeate the essence of who you are into the world that brings a smile on your face, a light in your heart, and actually makes you feel proud about who you are in the world. And this is trying to be reminded, and even being a little dramatic, to kind of wake us up and kind of get it together, if you will. It's going to probably be struck by a few emotions, if I may, and it is going to kind of start changing the tide and opposing that Pluto to awaken some deeper rooted emotions that we all might be collectively feeling. Leading us into this weekend, Saturday, that moon is doing a direct square with Pluto. This Friday weekend is quite intense, and I don't want anyone to have any kind of prerequisite expectations, good or bad, for this weekend, but I just want to say there is an emotional combustion on this leading into a spiritual week. this is not an ordinary October. This October, especially in this Libra season, and if you are a Libra, this is for massive changes happening into our internal worlds and revealing things that we're feeling emotionally to make cuts, make decisions, have conversations, and go about our lives in the way who even we are to develop an entirely different relationship life. And the reason I'm contexting that is because we have a cardinal cross, intense astrological things that happen starting on Saturday, basically. You will have Mars at 27 Libra, Pluto at 27 Capricorn, where it's retrograded back to America's Pluto return, and Moon at 27 Cancer. Again, working with a North Node at 24 Aries. That is a very tight T-square with Mars, Pluto, and the Moon. There's no way that if intuition's coming through, it comes in if you like it or not. If change wants to happen, it wants to change intensely. And it wants to do it with a swift sword action. And it can liberate us from the undercurrents in our foundation, maybe even spiritual traps, and what's holding you back from pure joy. That's what Venus and Leo is trying to do, and that's what's trying to come through. But we can't blame others, especially when we are the ones that need to accept ourselves, and what we might be experiencing now is bubbling up at this period in time. That leads us up to Sunday, October 8th, where that moon is going to enter Leo. Venus will be at the last day of Leo, and we are reaching halfway into the Libra season, coming up to a solar eclipse that will be revealed by next week. And this day, I see that Sunday as being a very beautiful time to express yourself, a very creative period. I see that a lot of emotions would have been swept through, cleaned up shop, and I would look at Sunday as a day to go be creative and joyous and understand that there is some magical karmic transformations if we are here to engage, if we are awakening to notice. This is something that's really going to change us for potentially the way we go about all of life. But expect that things you've put underneath the rug are coming up in any one of your zodiac signs that we'll get to next. I'm going to pull a card, something I haven't done for a while, if not ever, and I'm feeling really excited to kind of engage this with this channel. And let's see what we've done. For those that don't know, I've been doing tarot 15 years. I don't bring it up usually because it misconstrues the fact that I don't want this to be such a mystical channel when I do astrology. And please check in a video where I will tell my story and how we engage into all this. So, what do we got for today? Ooh, we got the Seven of Swords. So, you don't need to be sneaky. You don't need to make things up. We need to check ourselves and if we're being legitimate and not letting anyone kind of pull the wool over our eyes, and especially not pull the wool over ourselves. Let's look up one more confirming card on that. It's going to be the King of Cups. Bam. I love this. So, what you're getting to hear, we got to realize, we got to listen to our emotions. And this is a time to be a king of our emotions and understand what are you really feeling and not holding that back, not holding up the dam and repressing yourself, because these are times where it gets ugly. If you're holding back emotional things that haven't been released or having someone to talk to, this is the week where it's going to start accumulating to really get a good reflection on what is happening and what is maybe polluting the waters on things that we need to experience and share for ourselves to bring us back into balance. And so what I see from these confirmed from this week is that this is a time to get a hold of our emotions and know that actually being there to honor them. This isn't losing control. This isn't being so stoic that we just completely get washed away or just become hard as a rock. This is knowing this is how I'm feeling. This is where I'm guided. And this voice is leading me to a much more higher path. And I feel I can promise y'all that. So, appreciate y'all for this channel with all the love and respect. And until next time, this is a weekly horoscope from Ricardo. You have a great weekend.